We're
good. You go on vacation, Margie?
Yes, I am. I'll put it in the chat.
Make us all jealous. Ooh.
Oh, nice. Good morning.
Hey, the gang's all here. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Ethan, I'll turn it over to you to start the meeting.
Yeah, let's start. Hello, everyone. Happy June. I hope you're all doing well and staying cool. I know it's been a little hot out there, but summer is here, which is always exciting. And I want to just first let everyone introduce ourselves, and then our special guest can introduce himself, and then we'll dive into this really great session that I'm really excited about. So I'm first. My name is Ethan, and I'm the volunteer and intern coordinator for SEEK, which is a local nonprofit that helps adults with developmental disabilities live, work, and thrive in their communities. And I'll popcorn over to James.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James. I work as a program supervisor at Montgomery. My department, we help individuals with disabilities look for and maintain competitive employment. So thank you all for having me.
Andrea.
I'm Andrea Kempner-Wink with Community Reach of Montgomery County, and we provide safety net services of healthcare, housing, financial emergency assistance, education for immigrants, and elder care. And I love being here.
Great. Who's next? Teresa?
Good morning, everyone. I am Teresa Witt, and I work with the Treatment and Learning Centers here in Rockville, and we serve individuals with special needs through education at our Catherine Thomas School, therapies for other occupational speech occupation, and then, of course, we do our workforce development, which helps people get and keep jobs with intellectual disabilities. So I, too, am glad I'm part of Rockville Chamber. So good morning.
Good morning. And last but not least, we have Christy.
Good morning, everybody. Again, I apologize that I had a meeting, so I'm calling from my phone. I work with the Montgomery County Family Justice Center Foundation, and what we do is provide funding and support for programs that help people in relationship-based abuse. So that's also domestic violence, teen dating violence, and elder abuse.
And great. And Margie, sorry about that.
Hi, I'm Margie Graff. I'm the president and CEO of the Rockville Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing more what you have to say and learn more about Toastmasters.
Let's dive in.
Yes, well, I'm Amaate Neil. I am the Vice President of Education of the Effective Communicators Toastmasters Club of Rockville, Maryland. And I want to first thank Ethan and all of you at the Rockville Chamber of Commerce Non-profit Masterminds for having me and allowing me to share my experience of public speaking with you. So a little bit about me. I've spent most of my career in higher education. I'm currently an administrator in the finance division of American University. I like higher ed. I like the youth, the innovative ideas that come out of higher ed. And so I've spent most of my career in higher education. I've been in Toastmasters for over 10 years, and I've won several speech contests in Toastmasters. I'm also a public speaking consultant, and I give one-on-one coaching for clients who really need specific help with their speech and presentation. What I'm planning to share with you today is what public speaking means to you and what you do for Rockville as nonprofit representatives. If I can share screen, am I able to share screen even?
Yep, ready.
Can everyone see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So I'd like to share, what does public speaking mean to you? I'd like us to go over some presentation tips, and then we're going to engage in a table topics exercise. What does public speaking mean to you? Why is public speaking important? What would you say public speaking means to you, if you could say it in a nutshell? Anybody who would like to volunteer or share?
Yeah, I think public speaking means making an impact on a group.
Okay, good. Succinct, to the point.
And in my case, we have to explain our mission so that we are able to receive philanthropic gifts, because as a nonprofit, those are so important. So not only do I need to be able to publicly share our mission so that you can attach your passion, but then also be able to explain our mission so that we can receive funding.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Thank you. Okay, right, share your mission for funding purposes, extremely important. When we think about public speaking, most people think of speeches and presentations. However, there are other venues that fall under the umbrella of public speaking. For example, interviews, be it a job interview or a media interview. A meeting where you're conducting a meeting, or a site visit, or even a one-on-one conversation, because there may be those one-on-one conversations where you're meeting with a potential donor, where that one-on-one conversation is so critical to your mission and how things play out for your organization. So all of those do fall under the banner of public speaking. Can you think of a time recently where you had a public speaking engagement, or you witnessed one recently? What went well? What could have been improved? For anyone who would like to share?
I can share. So what went well, and I was speaking, what went well is my message was well received, and I said things clearly. What went poorly was my posture was bad, and I had my hands on each side of the podium, and they were, it looked like I was having a tough time holding on.
Okay. Well, thank you, Andrea, for sharing. And I'm glad you shared that, because you touched on a critical point. You were able to communicate your message well. You were not happy with your posture. It looked like you were having a tough time. That is something that many of us struggle with. We know what we want to say. We say it well. However, how we present, we may not be happy with. There's room for improvement. And we're going to talk about some of those things today. Most times, we all have to engage in public speaking skills at some point, either in our academic lives or in our professional lives. Unfortunately, public speaking is one of the top 10 fears in the world. In fact, there are some people who say they would rather die than speak publicly. And unfortunately, it is a real tragedy, because there are some people who have some great ideas, great missions, great inventions, but we don't know about them, and we'll never know because they have trouble communicating them. And it is a tragedy, because we have to ask the question, what might have been had the world known about this great mission, this great idea, or this great invention? The good thing is, fear of public speaking can be conquered. And even if you are able to speak publicly with no problem, being able to improve will help you to have more of an impact, as Ethan was talking about. So let's talk about some of the ways that we can conquer the fear, or if we even don't have the fear, how we can improve our public speaking. One is, you want to outline your message. That is very important. Outlining what you want to communicate to your audience. Knowing your audience is very important. You need to know your audience well. so you can tailor your message to that audience. Practice, practice, practice. There's no substitute for practicing. I don't preach memorization per se, memorizing your speech or presentation. However, what you'll find is as you practice it often, it will become like second nature to you. If somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night, you can say it because you've said it so often. Watch a recording of yourself doing the speech or presentation. This is very important because as you're watching the recording, you'll be conscious of some of the things that you are doing that you weren't aware that you were doing. So Andrea, like you mentioned, holding on to the podium, at least you are aware of what you were doing. Some people are not even conscious of what they're doing while they're speaking. And when they watch the video, they say, oh, I didn't know I was doing that. Next time when I practice, I have to make sure I don't do that. That is definitely worth its weight in gold or platinum, watching yourself. Visualization, that's very important. I'm a big believer in visualization. Visualize yourself giving the perfect speech or presentation. Visualize what you'll be wearing that day. Visualize the room, visualize the audience. That's very important to have that mental picture. So that way, when you get in the real environment, it will be familiar to you. Familiarize yourself with the venue and the equipment. If it's an in-person meeting, if you can get access to the room a few days before the event, that is great because you can practice your speech and presentation. You can hear how the acoustics are working. You can practice with your technology. That is definitely what you want to do so you can see what may need to be improved, what could go wrong, and have a plan B in case things don't work out. Because sometimes things don't work out, particularly with technology. What would be your plan if your presentation doesn't work, your PowerPoint doesn't work, or electricity or whatever it is? Things do go wrong at times. So you definitely want to have your plan B. As you're doing your outline, if you can tell a story, that will be great because we tend to remember stories. And while your data is important, if you can tell a story and weave in your data into the story, you have a winning formula because people will more likely be able to remember what you said when you tell a story. People remember stories, they follow stories. As you are transitioning from one topic to another, or even one sentence to another, don't be afraid to pause. Many times when we're transitioning from one sentence to the other or one topic to the other, we don't want to pause silently. So what do? We put in filler words like ums, ahs, you knows. And in Toastmasters, we count those. And there have been people who've done speeches who have 100 you knows, 100 ums. We're afraid to pause silently. We feel like we must say something in that silent space. So that's where it comes in. So what you want to do is pause silently. Get comfortable with the pause as you transition, because while we're doing those filler words, is our brain is trying to pause as we transition. It's okay to pause silently. So please practice your pauses. Okay. Now, the other thing is when you're giving a speech or presentation, if you make a mistake, just keep going. A lot of times people don't even realize, your audience doesn't even realize that you've made a mistake because they don't know your speech and your presentation. They don't know what you're going to say. So just keep going. Mistakes happen sometimes. Just keep going. When you're in person as opposed to online, there are going to be some differences. You want to make eye contact with your audience. However, when you're online, it's of course very different. When you're online, you should be staring into the camera to make eye contact with your audience. You don't want to look at yourself on the screen or your audience on the screen. You want to be looking into the camera. That way you appear to be making direct eye contact with your audience. Now, when you're in person, it's different. When you're in person, especially in a large venue, what you want to do is pick 3 people in different parts of the room and speak to each of those 3 people throughout your speech and presentation. That way it gives the appearance that you're looking at the whole audience, because of course you can't direct your attention to each and every audience member in a large gathering. But if you pick those 3 people in the different parts of the room, it will give the impression that you are sharing with everyone in the room. And the other thing to consider when you're online is you have limited gestures. When you're in person, you can be extravagant with your gestures. You could do somersaults and cartwheels if you wanted to. But here in Zoom, we have this limited box. There's only so far people can't see certain gestures. So you're limited by that limited real estate. So keep that in mind as well as you go forward in your speeches or presentations. Even if you give the perfect speech or presentation, what happens when you encounter those spontaneous situations? Those spontaneous situations are situations like the question and answer period of a presentation, an interview, or a meeting. What happens when you get the question that you were totally unprepared for, that you didn't expect that you were going to get? The question that catches you off guard. How do you respond? Many of us, especially if it's a sensitive subject, many of us may have an emotional response, or we may say the first thing that pops into our head. And usually that is the wrong thing to say. What we should do in those instances is first pause. Remember the pause. Pause comes in here too. Pause. Breathe deeply. And then organize your thoughts. Maybe even ask the person to repeat the question to make sure you understood it. That would also give you more time. Maybe even ask a clarifying question as a follow-up to make sure you're going down the right road as you answer. Then when you get that answer, pause again, organize your thoughts, and then you can give a coherent response. In Toastmasters, we do an extemporaneous speaking exercise called table topics. And in table topics, what we do is we have one member come to the front of the room, or in Zoom, we give them the floor. We give them a subject that they were not prepared to speak on. And then they speak for 1 to 2 minutes on that subject. We time them and we actually give them light indicators. So at 1 minute, they get a green light. At 1.5 minutes, they get a yellow light. And at 2 minutes, they get a red light, and the red light stays on until they're finished. So that gives them the indicator that they need to wrap up. And when there are table topics competitions, if you go over 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you're disqualified. So that practice, even if somebody's not in a competition, but practicing those table topic exercise, it forces people to get under the condition of where they have to organize their thoughts in a timely manner and be able to give a coherent response. Now, usually when you are in a meeting setting, no one's has a timer timing you per se, but we all know that time is very precious. And so we have to be concise in what we are saying. So that's what we do in Toastmasters. And so what I'd like to do is share with you a Toastmasters video of a table topics exercise. Now, this was a contest, and the person was given the subject, and you'll notice they paused, and then they gave their speech in 1 to 2 minutes. I think they went 2 minutes and 25 seconds, whatever it is. So let's take a look at that, and so you have an experience of what table topics is like. If you have any trouble hearing, please let me know.
James Jeffley. If I could rewrite history. If I could rewrite history, James Jeffley.
Dear fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, it's such a tempting idea to be able to go back in time and change some of the things that have created so much pain and suffering in the world. What if I could go back and make it so that there wasn't a Hitler? What if I could go back and make it so that there wasn't a plague? What if I could rewrite history such that we would end poverty and injustice and suffering? It's such a tempting idea to go back and do that. But if I could rewrite history, there's a part of me that says, I wouldn't change a thing. Because to change all of that would mean that we would not be in this present moment with the opportunity to learn from our mistakes. To rewrite history would mean we would not be in this moment where we have a chance to learn, to grow, and to do better. To rewrite history would deny us our pain, because in that pain, I learn compassion. In the suffering and the struggle, I learn about my own courage. If I rewrote history and took away the things that create the dark night of the soul, my soul wouldn't have the chance to blossom and reach new heights. So as tempting as the idea is to go back and change history, I don't think I would change a thing. What I would do is I would decide in this moment to write a better history for myself, to make better decisions so that I live a little kinder, show a little more compassion, bring a little more love to the world. The history that I would change is the history that I make right now. Madam Table Topics Master.
Notice, was everyone able to hear okay?
Mm-hmm.
Notice that he paused first, and he paused for an extended period of time before he answered. And that's fine. There's no rule in Toastmasters competitions. There's no rule that you have to start speaking within 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So some people will get up there and pause for 20 seconds organizing their thoughts. And in a meeting scenario, that may be a bit uncomfortable, but it's just the point that it's better to pause for the 5 to 10 seconds to 15 seconds, gather your thoughts, and go ahead and give a coherent response. On that note, we are going to engage in a table topics exercise. So again, what table topics entails, I give you a subject or question, you go ahead and speak on it, and I'm going to give you the option of whether you want the timer indicator or not, because you may not have seen it in the video, but the speaker had a timer indicator. It was in the back of the room, and the green light, yellow light, and the red light, they had that as a cue. So if you like the cue as you're speaking, I'll be sure and give it to you. I can time you no matter what to let you know how long you spoke for. But if you like the cue, I can give it to you. If you don't, that's fine as well. So who would like to be our first volunteer?
I'll go ahead.
James?
Yes, sir.
Okay, James, great. And I automatically, James, I made the first question the easiest one for our first volunteer. James, would you like the timer indicator or not?
For this instance, I would.
You would? Okay. And I don't start timing until you start speaking.
Okay. My internet connection's a little unstable, so just an FYI.
Okay, thanks. James, a philanthropist is very inspired by what you do at your nonprofit organization. In fact, she's so inspired that she wants to give you a $10 million donation to your organization. But before she writes the check, she wants to know, what are your first 3 priorities once you receive response.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is James, and I really appreciate you for your kind and considerate donation to our organization. Our organization would highly appreciate this and would make absolute excellent use of this money. One of the main reasons how we would use the money is to improve our self-advocacy within our community. We would use that money to hire new individuals, primarily to go out within the community, poll individuals, what it means to them, what their opinion is on mental health and how they view it. Additionally, a second point using that additional money would be to improve trainings for our staff, hiring additional staff or hiring additional trainers such as myself and others would not only allow it not only improve public advocacy, but improve our internal mission or internal. That money would go a long way into hiring qualified professional speakers, into training our internal staff. And last of all, the money would be a great recognition of all the hard work that we present to our community and our agency. So the three main reasons that I touched on, I'm sure that I would have many more, but that money would go a long ways into improving our agency and our community outreach. Thank you for your time.
Okay, let's give James a hand. Good job, James. You were at 2 minutes and 9 seconds. And just to comment, I'll give you some feedback, James. And I mentioned this, but I should have been more clear about it. The things we're looking for is eye contact, your gestures, your vocal variety, and your clarity. So you were very clear. I was able to understand you with no problem. You had good gestures. You didn't have much in terms of vocal variety and wanted to see a little bit more contact, but you made your 3 points, which was important. So you did a very good job.
What is vocal variety?
So, and thank you, Ethan, because I should have explained that more. Vocal variety is using different speed, tone, and pitch as you are speaking. If there's something you're very passionate about, if there's some really egregious action that is going to unsettle the community, you want to speak passionately about it. If there's been an outpouring of giving as a result of people changing their hearts on a very controversial issue, you want to have more of a peaceful tone. If you're going through a list of things that you're hitting, boom, 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 you probably want to speed up. If you want to get maximum attention in what you're saying, lower your voice and speak slowly, people will key in. So those are some of the things you want to change with your vocal variety that's going to help your speeches and presentations have more impact. So just some things. Yes, James?
Yeah, I just, so with the eye contact, that's something that that's something that I get kind of nervous about, like being a bit shy, a bit introverted. That's something I'm trying to improve. But I really appreciate the feedback, and that's something I'm hoping to improve. Maybe, you know, learn further from you, but from additional members. So I'll be happy to enter in my contact information in this chat if anyone's interested in that.
Sure, definitely. And to your point, James, at the end of the meeting, I'm going to put in the chat. I'd like to invite all of you to our Effective Communicators Toastmasters Club meetings. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we meet online. So I'd like to invite you to check out a meeting. There's no pressure to join or anything. You can just come as a guest, because that's some of the things that we deal with, James, practicing that. And what you'll find, James, is as you practice it more, as you do it more, it becomes more familiar. One example I can't help but think of is somebody like Steve Jobs, not evaluating what, some of the things he said or did, but when he first started presenting, he didn't do such a good job. But as time went on, he became a better presenter when he was presenting things like a new operating system or the new iPhone. So it's something that as you practice, you'll get better and better at. The eye contact, looking at the camera, if you're in person, making eye contact with those three people in the various parts of the room. As you practice it, it'll become easier and easier. So thank you for sharing, James. Who would like to be our next volunteer?
I guess, oh, Nancy, go ahead.
Hi,
okay, this is definitely intimidating, but thank you for putting us through under the fire here.
Sure. Now, Nancy, I don't recall hearing you with your introduction when you came in.
I was just like a few minutes late, so.
Okay, what
I miss?
Well, first, nice meeting you, Nancy. And I just wanted to know which nonprofit do you represent?
Okay, I represent Peerless Rockville, which is a historic preservation and history organization in the city.
Right, great. And would you like the timer indicator as you're speaking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay, Nancy. Your organization, Peerless Rockville, has received a $500,000 matching grant. You have been able to come up with the other $450,000 in matching funds through the diligent work of you and your staff. However, you are now $50,000 short of your goal. You and your staff have been working frantically to achieve your goal of getting this last $50,000. You're 1 week away from your deadline. What do you say to your staff?
Okay. So, team, I am so impressed with what we have been able to do so far. We have had this just amazing challenge and opportunity that has been presented before us. When this $500,000 matching grant came forward, it was out of the blue and something we never expected. And you have rallied and pulled together in a way that I think has surprised us all. And we are so close to the finish line. And I know that we think that we have tried everything, but at this point, I feel like we need to dig a little deeper and maybe try to uncover some of the stones that we have not even tapped. I'm going to make that extra effort. I'm going to go back to my contacts. I ask you to do the same thing. And wherever we end up at the end of this week, I think it's going to be positive. We will know that we have done everything that we can do to meet our goals. But let's take a second and focus on what those goals are and why they're important. Because I think that perhaps going back to the basics and maybe returning to some of our donors that have already given and letting them know how close we are and reminding them of why it matters and why it's so important, maybe can just get us a little closer to the finish line. So we have a week. I think that we take a day to think about what we can do, to really think why this matters, collect our thoughts, and then let's spend the next 2 days working back those contacts, and then we'll put this out. And team, I know you can do it. I have faith, and let's support each other and go get this money. Thanks.
All right. Give Nancy a round of applause. And I noticed that you paused there. I appreciate the pause before you went into what you were going to say. I admire the passion that you had. I hear it coming out. Your eye contact was okay. You made eye contact, but I noticed as you were searching for words, sometimes you looked away, which is understandable because it's probably one of your first times speaking under conditions like this. Your clarity was very good. Your vocal variety, you did have some changes in your vocal variety, which was good. And I really admired the fact how you addressed the fact that this was a challenge, but you wanted to remind your team, think about our goals, think about why we're doing this, and let's go back. I'm going to refocus my efforts, and going back to those who had given to say, listen, we're so close, not forgetting those who had already given. I think making good use of your resources on the spot, I really admired that. So I thought you did a very good job. You came in at 2 minutes and 11 seconds. So good job on that. Good job.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Who would like to volunteer next?
I'll go. It's Andrea.
Okay, Andrea. All right, Andrea, would you like the timer cues?
Yes, please.
Okay. Andrea, one of your most valuable volunteers has been accused of harassment by several residents and employees of centers that your nonprofits overseas. When you talk to him about it, he states that because he's not an employee of your organization, he does not have to abide by your policies on harassment. What do you say to him?
Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. This is a serious incident that we're talking about, and I understand that you feel that as a volunteer, you are not required to follow the same rules as our employees. When we spoke originally and you joined us as a volunteer, we talked extensively about the fact that volunteers have the same code of morals and ethics that they must abide by as our employees. And that although you're not paid in dollars, what you receive from volunteering, you're paid in other ways, in benefits of learning new skills and benefits of feeling good about what you're doing. No one who works with our staff, our clients, or anyone else in our organization is ineligible, is unable, excuse me, is exempt from the policies of the organization. The culture of the organization extends well beyond just our staff. It includes our volunteers, it includes our clients, it includes our supporters. So I want you to really think about your experience here. I appreciate the work that you've done with us. You will not be invited back, but I hope that you will have learned from this experience and that we can help our clients and our staff grow in their opportunities to deal with unwanted experiences. Thank you very much.
Give Andrea a round of applause.
That's a tough one.
Good job, very good job.
I did not
Andrea.
like that one.
I know, but the purpose was helping us work through a very sensitive issue and questions, because we all know these issues come up in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not exactly like that one, but these issues do come up, and we want to be able to deal with them in a non-emotional way. And that's what I really admired, how you started off. You paused and then you delivered your response, because this can be an extremely emotional situation, because I understand that your residents, your clients, your employees are dear to most of you. And the fact that someone could be harassing them, that, of course, that would elicit an emotional response from many of us. But you stayed calm. I really admired that, because it's very easy to get angry in a situation like that. But I really admired your calmness as you went through it. Your eye contact was fine. You didn't have many gestures. I didn't notice any gestures, but you were very methodical in what you were going through. You were very clear, and you let the person know that you appreciate your experience and what you've done. However, everyone is subject to our policies on harassment, whether you're a volunteer or employee or what have you. And the one thing I like the most when you ended, you're not invited back, because yes, in a situation like that, that's ultimately the best way to deal with someone who does that. And your time, you came in at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So good job. Okay, so we're at 9:43. How are we doing on time, Ethan?
Do you want to do one more and then we'll do a Q&A?
Sure. Okay, let's do one more. Who would like to volunteer?
I guess I could do it.
I had trouble. Is it Christy?
This is Christy. Yeah,
Okay.
I got to a point where I was able to join with video, and I'm hoping I don't regret it.
Oh, no. We want to see you. We want to see your reactions, your responses, Christy. So this is great that you can join in. And you have an exciting one I'm going to give.
Oh boy.
So Christy, just 1 second. I want to. Okay, Christy, would you like the timer indicator?
Yes, please.
Okay. Christy, you get on an elevator, and there is the head of a large foundation that you've been trying to reach out to for donations for quite a while. She's getting off in 7 floors, so you've got about 30 to 60 seconds. What do you say to her?
Okay. Hi, Jane. My name is Christy from the Montgomery County Family Justice Center Foundation. This is incredibly fortuitous that we ran into each other like this. I know we've been reaching out to you over the past several months and have had a difficult time connecting, and I know how hard it can be with schedules, but this is a great opportunity. And I wanted to follow up with you about a new program that we are doing called Ride to Safety. And I think it would be perfect for your team to sponsor, because given that you're in the automotive industry, I think it is a perfect match. We would like to offer this to you so that we could have it be your program exclusively. And we currently provide over 450 rides to safety each year for victims of domestic violence and their children. Given the impact of COVID, the rate of domestic violence has gone up in the number of cases, the severity of the cases, and just in the frequency of the cases. So as we are moving forward, we are on target to be at a 20% increase in clients that are coming to our center. So we really would love to get in front of this with this program so that we are able to meet the needs of those families to get them to that first step, which is coming into our center so that they can receive the services that they need to help start that journey to get them out of a violent situation. I know that our time is almost up here, so if you, oh my gosh, I just realized the elevator has stopped. And here's my card. I would love to follow up with you. Sorry, I forgot the 45 seconds.
That's okay. That's okay, Christy. That's okay. But you were flowing and you got into your message, and that was good. So it
was the second time you held up the phone, because I'm thinking 2 minutes. No, he said 45 seconds.
Right. So and it's an estimate, because we don't know how many people are getting on and off the elevator. But
well, I think we stopped at every floor. So
okay. So you were at 1 minute and 56 seconds. So
okay, way over.
No, well, yes, in terms of the 30 to 60 second limit, but in terms of the Toastmasters 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you were fine. In situations like that, you never know how much time you're actually going to have. And I'm hoping that she would have at least waited until you finished speaking and to at least hear what you had to say.
Oh, I just followed her right off the elevator.
Here,
let me carry your bags for you.
There you go. And that's what you do. And I'm sure that your passion for your mission comes through, and she's going to feel that. So that's very important. So just a few notes for you. You spoke very clearly. I thought you did a very good job. You were ready. You did pause. You took your time, but once you started speaking, you were ready. I didn't hear you stumble. You had good statistics on what the funding would do and how it would impact families and how it would help, particularly victims of the domestic violence. Your eye contact, you needed a little bit more eye contact. I noticed you were looking up a lot, maybe as you were thinking of what to say. And of course, when you're in person, it's going to be a little different. When we're here on Zoom, you're going to be looking into the camera. So that's the only point that I would say you would need to work on for Zoom. But I think you did a very good job. Very good job.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, all of our volunteers.
Everyone did great.
Yes, very, very good. So at this point, we are going to turn it over for questions. Any questions that anyone may have?
I'd have to just say, Andrea, I would have sent that to HR. I would have never touched that. So congratulations, you did great. I'd say, excuse me, Director of HR, we have a volunteer that's not applying.
Yeah. So I actually had a public speaking presentation yesterday to our major funder of our organization. This would have been helpful to do before yesterday. But I feel like I get really nervous leading up to my presentation, and I focus on what do I need to say? Like, what is my script? And like, I get all in my head about it. But then I notice when I get up there, I kind of calm down and just like take a breath. So how do you like, I think nerves have a lot to do with public speaking, and that's why people are afraid to do it. So what are some strategies to like help you relax and calm down and just be authentic and genuine when you're up there?
Being nervous it comes with it. I still get nervous, believe it or not. Many other speakers that I've heard, they admit that they get nervous. So that comes with the territory. What I would say is you want to try and convert that nervous energy into enthusiasm, if at all possible. So there's a little bit of nerves. Now, some people get too nervous. One of the things you can do is, one, visualization, I find, really helps me. And so I would encourage visualization to the weeks or the days leading up to when you're going to give that presentation or speech. Visualize yourself doing it. Visualize everything working out perfectly. That will make you more confident. Definitely, you want to make sure you give yourself plenty of time beforehand so that you're at the venue or at the location, so that doesn't, any last minute things don't contribute to you getting more nervous. Have your water ready. You want to make sure your throat is nice and wet, things like that. You want to make sure that is taken care of. The morning before, do some practice sessions. If it's a situation where you're doing a speech or presentation, definitely do it a couple of times beforehand. Or if it's a one-on-one session where you may get asked questions, just think about any questions you may get and go ahead and verbally, even if you're speaking to yourself, rehearse your questions. Like, one of the things when I'm going to a job interview, as I'm driving to the interview, I ask myself potential way out questions that I won't likely get, but just in case, what would I say if the interviewer asked me that? So I've rehearsed what happens if I get that question. So those are some of the things that you can do to calm you down. And deep breathing, definitely deep breathing from the diaphragm, that definitely helps. But some nervousness is expected. So, don't feel too bad. Even experienced speakers can get, and I see Teresa, and box breathing works to calm people down, calm me down. Yes, breathing has very definitely an impact.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen for a bit while we do the questions?
Sure.
Great.
I'll come back to.
Perfect. James, you had a question? Christy.
Yeah, go ahead, Christy.
If we could go back to the beginning about sort of physical awkwardness, what are some tips that you could give us for when you are doing public speaking and you don't have a podium and you're standing? What are some postures or gestures or things that could help make you look less awkward?
Yes, and that takes a lot of practice, because that is a challenge that many people have. Now, most times when I'm giving a speech or presentation, I stand. I was sitting during the presentation just because I had two screens going and I had notes and everything. But most times I stand. And when I'm standing, what I do, your default stance is you want to stand with your hands to your side. Well, people say, what do I do with my hands? It's best to keep them to the side. Now, some people have some very bad habits with their hands. They do the kangaroo sometimes, or they're a soldier waiting, at standing on. And people have this is very guarded, a very closed stance. You want to get comfortable with standing in your hands to the side. Now, when you're gesturing, and this is where gestures come in, when you're passionate about something, you want to let it be known and show those gestures. If you're afraid of something, like people who are terrified of public speaking, you can show that with your hands. There are various different positions that evoke certain emotions. When you get lower to your audience, that gives you a feeling of trust, that the audience trusts you more. So what you want to do is coordinate gestures with your speech But when you don't have any gestures, just keep them by the sides. And that may feel a little uncomfortable, but trust me, you want to get used to that. That's definitely better than speaking like this or like this. Those are very guarded positions. And you want to be open. You want to have an open stance. This is very closed. So it's a matter of practicing, just keeping your hands to the side unless you are gesturing.
Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, my question is kind of similar to Christy's, but one of the things that I find myself doing is letting my audience and my team know that I'm a bit nervous and I have a bit of anxiety that I work on outside of the office. I'm trying my best to not bring that into the meetings as that pertains to my personal life, but I feel like that's something I do to elicit like that I'm still working on that. Do you think that's something I should continue, or is that something I should gradually take out of my team presentations or trainings? Or
okay, so James, I just want to make sure I understand your question. You mentioned the anxiety, and some of it comes from your personal life, but when you're in team meetings, you mentioned that just so your team will know that, you know, this is something you're dealing with, just so they understand the situation. Is that what you're?
Yeah, like, I mean, as you had picked up, and some of you all might have picked up, sometimes my thoughts are faster than when I speak. So I use that not to elicit sympathy, but rather convey that, you know, I'm just nervous, but the more I gain supervisory experience, it allows me to kind of set that. But I find myself that I'm, for lack of a better words, shoot myself in the foot when I do that, because it makes me feel like my speech is kind of diluted when I present it, if that makes sense.
Well, I would say, and yes, I do understand. I would say in a meeting with colleagues or with anyone at small meetings, I think it's fine to share the fact that you think faster than you speak, letting them know ahead of time. I think that makes everybody comfortable to understand, okay, when we understand the situation. And so as a result, I think the meeting will go better. I think people generally, once they understand the situation, they exercise patience. But on the other side of it, I think that as you practice more with it, you will improve more, and practice on your own. Conduct a mock meeting, just on your own at home, via a sample Zoom session with your computer camera on. And as you do that more often, you'll find you get more comfortable. But it's fine to let your colleagues know, or the meeting attendees know, that you may speak a little slowly because you're thinking faster than you speak. But I think it's fine, because then everyone realizes, okay, and that what the situation is. So I think that's fine to let people know. And then at the same time, you're working on it, and you will find that you will improve.
Okay.
I think we're at about 9:59 now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put in the chat. I want to thank Ethan and all of you at the Non-profit Masterminds for having me. A few things I want to leave you with is practice your public speaking. Tell a story if you can. Don't be afraid of the pause, and speak well.
And I want to thank you so much for an amazing presentation and exercise. And you were so engaging and really lifted me up this morning. And I'm ready and inspired. So thank you so much. And I'm going to send
Very
out,
welcome.
can you email me the presentation actually so I can email
Sure.
everyone? Great.
Sure.
And I'll
And
include
I
your
just-
contact information.
Sure, and I just put the link to our meeting, Effective Communicators Toastmasters Club meeting. We meet tomorrow at 7. If you'd like to visit our meeting, we would love to have you. And I will email the presentation to Ethan. Also, I'm going to put in to the chat the top 10 don'ts of giving a presentation. I think that would be helpful. And I'll also send, it's for some reason, it's not going in the chat. But I will also send that to Ethan so that he can share that with you. Actually, it's in the chat now, but I'll give that to Ethan as well.
Wonderful. And again, thank you so much. This is great.
Glad you enjoyed it and glad to share.
Thank you.
I'll see everyone next month.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.